YouTube has your name. I see PIA is represented.
How are you doing there? We're done.
I didn't know he got and they always have on TV.
Hi, Joe.
How you doing?
I mean,
How you doing, Dale?
How are you doing?
It's off the gold day.
You're doing training?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to do it, you like to do it, why not? Not that you need the money, so just get you out of the house. I understand. Any big green guardians?
Not bad this year.
Get Willie in there. California was cold.
I hear.
They bought a big air trailer, a brand new truck. Now I came up on the back on the cross country. LA Times.
Smile, Terry.
Hey,
Okay, that's good.
I don't smile much.
How you doing, Randy?
Since August of 2017.
good. How you been? All right. All right.
I retired in 2005. I taught the trade. You shut that That's what Mike
He goes, I'm a boy.
Well, I met my mom. My mom said, she said, the horse plants are
Yes, I finished. Thank you.
Started planting out there at my house out in the field again. They were planting.
Hi, Phil.
Hi, Phil. Oh my God. Don't take that from him.
Now, how did I know that he's really familiar with talking about this?
It's nice to get together and honor the people who have retired every year. For those of you who don't know, we had a few past employees that passed away this year. Actually, Bob Thorak passed away last May. I spoke to his wife. Sam Barnes passed away this May, and Norm Maple also did. So maybe we could have a moment of silence for them three. All right, thank you. All right, so this year we got 3 people retiring. The first one we're going to talk about is Mr. Willie Boyer. I had the pleasure of working with Willie some, and I actually dug through some archives. This was Willie's, where'd it go? That was Willie's original photo. He looked a little different. Another thing about Willie is Willie liked doing his crossword puzzles.
All right, yeah, you're okay.
So one day he laid one down, and I always wondered what he was writing down for the answers, because Liz wouldn't leave him alone. She just kept talking to him. There's a few of the answers I found he had wrote down. Now I was also told a story that who can't see? I can't see. Come on. No, what do you expect? I guess back in the day in the farm building, Willie was coming into work a little late, and Dave Carra was starting to get on him about it. And he let Willie know, if you come in again late, we're going to have to write you up. So the next day, Willie walked in the lunchroom late with a piece of angle iron in his hand, like he'd been working on it.
Do you remember that, Willie?
You know who told me?
Well, I didn't want to stretch the story in it.
Also, we found a picture when Willie was first informed when he was going to be partners with Liz. So you have a big one, Elizabeth.
He's having a big one.
Any of you that ever worked with Liz knows it does take a toll on you. All right, so the next person I'm going to talk about is Mr. Guy Belange. Now, had the pleasure of working with Guy in 2 different departments. He was pretty quiet though when I met him in the Cocos. He didn't talk a lot for some reason. Once he came to the caster, he kind of opened up, I thought. One thing you'll probably remember about Guy is the head tilt. When Guy's thinking about something, his head kind of goes sideways. And the other thing you might noticed about Guys, sometimes his stories go a little slow, and it takes a while to get it out, you know? Now, the other funny thing I always noticed about Guy, I don't think there's anybody who gets more use out of their smartphone than Guy Belange. From the day he got one, he was on that thing constantly, and you didn't even have to ask him. You just mentioned, I wonder how much it costs to fly to Arizona this week, and he'll give you the answer. You don't even have to ask him. Now, as most of you know, Guy was the second Belangian in the caster. Most people call him the good Belangian. That's the good Belangian. And here's a picture we found of Gary. Sorry, Gary, couldn't help it. All right, so now I'm going to talk a little about Mr. Paul Kachaha. Now, Paul, I had the pleasure of meeting him my first week in the mill. I was a new employee down at the docks. I was cleaning the place. And he came in there, in the locker room. It was just me and him in there. And he said, hey, you know who I am? He said, I'm Paul Kachaha. I used to be the president of this union. He said, if this room ain't cleaned, I'll have your job. Threatened me right from the start. That's exactly how I felt. Now then I actually got, when I did over to the caster, I got to work with him and found out he wasn't quite that bad. What? He spent many years trying to reform Randy and Germaniel. We actually have some footage of them working. It's nice to have them cameras around everywhere. You get to see some good stuff every now and then. But actually, for me personally, I would like to thank Paul for all his years as a union representative in, I don't know how many different positions you held. Pretty much all of them almost. But I think a lot of us enjoy the benefits that Paul has helped lay down. And the mill is a lot better place to work because of him.
What about the marijuana and the coke can?
So, before I get started, I would like to make sure that we all give Angelique, Miss Hall, and our bartender Megan a round of applause. That was a really, really good job for us, and it's always good to do good service. Also, another round of applause needs to go to Mike Callahan. Mike doesn't just do the jokes. He does all the phone calls, he strong arms everybody to pay him, he does all the work for this party. And if it weren't for Mike, truthfully, this would not be the great event that it is. Thank you. So, as usual, Mike tells the jokes. I get to be the more friendly guy. So, I'll start with Willie. Willie is like the caster's, or really the mill's best kept secret. And if anybody's had the pleasure of working with Willie, you would know that I'm accurate on that. Great millwright, great person. He would stay out there all night long. He took his job seriously. And I know he taught me a few things. And Willie, I just wanted to say thank you for being such a great person and a great worker for the time you spent out there. So thank you. Brings me to Guy. When I first met Guy, he transferred into our department, and I met Guy, and the first conversations I had with him, I thought to myself, I have just met the world's nicest man. I mean, really, for someone just to agree with everything you had to say, and that transferred onto the job as well. When we brought on the job, if there was anything that needed to be cut, burned, welded, it didn't matter. He was always volunteering to be there, never in the way, just always wanting to help. So, Guy, thank you also for your Last but not least, leads me to Paul Kachaha. Now, Paul Kachaha also made a great millwright, a huge asset, someone who I have gone through personally several times. When lost for not really knowing what to do, he's a plethora of information. But as Mike touched on, he was also one of the greatest union leaders we've ever had in this world. And I have a list here of things where he started. I'd kind of like to read out, so we can truly honor his path, because he never stopped. From the time he hired in, to the time he retired, to today, he is still dedicated to our movement and to the union. So, with that being said, and I'm slowly getting to be your guys' crowd. I can't read with my glasses on anymore. So Paul hired in July 9th of 1970. He became a shop steward around 1971. He was active in the Ed Sadlowski for the district director election around 1972, and then in the court-ordered return of the election in 1974. He led the formation of the Rank and File Caucus in 1974 and helped publish the monthly Rank and File Worker newsletter. Everybody knows about this, or if you don't, you will now. He got fired in 1975 for allegedly having possession of marijuana in his hubcap of a 1974 Dodge van, which then triggered a plant-wide sticker campaign of Where's Paul? Now, that campaign did actually lead to us getting his job back, or him getting his job back. He was then elected to president of the local of 6787 from June 1976 to April 1979. Paul points out that this is the shortest term any president has ever served. He organized and led the Indiana Steelworkers Caucus. That's big. I know people like to be proud of positions they hold, but to be truly one of the founding fathers of one of our organizations, that's something that we need to really respect. He helped campaign again for Ed Sandowski's attempt to win the National USW President in 1977. Also in 1977, he negotiated the local issues that resulted in over 20 permanently discharged workers being brought back to work, and 700 other issues settled, like expanded and improved welfare, new heated and cooled lunchrooms, cranes, and mobile equipment, coke oven relief systems, change in the draconian conduct code to lessen all the discharges, shift preferences by seniority, mandatory overtime and attendance policies, and many more. All of which he compiled and printed in the local issue book. Now, for all of us out there that's working, we all realize several contracts now are local issues. They do not get handled like they used to. But we talk about them, and we move forward with them, and we still continue with our local issues at the plant level because of Paul Shaw. That's big. We have air conditioning because of Paul. We have heat because of Paul. These are things that he did. All these amenities that I had, really, most of us had. Well, when Pete and I hired in, this was already laid down for us. We had heat, we had air, we had that. Same thing with Mike. Anybody with 25 years or less, this was because of Paul and his dedication to the union, an unselfish dedication to the workers. He never asked for a thank you, nor did he ever expect it. He was a local union editor from 1982 to 1985, chairman of the grievance committee from 1985 to 1988. More cases arbitrated in that period than any other period in the history of our local. More arbitrations in that short period of time, 3 years, than ever in the history of our local. Elected plant-wide as a delegate to the USW Constitutional Conventions in 1976, 78, 80, 82, 84, 86, 88, and 90. I'd like to point out that his first election of 1976, I was 1. Just saying. It did take me a little while to serve a coworker instead of a father. So, when he was not president or chairman, he was assistant griever in the blast furnace mechanical. When he transferred in the late 1995 to Casper Mechanical, he became assistant griever there from 1997 until 2016. So again, Paul, thank you. Guys, I know he doesn't need any introduction, but now the president of our local, teacher and Ed, would like to get up and say a few things in honor of our retirees as well.
Willie, Guy, Paul, is phenomenal union members, good workers. Okay? Rich hit it on the head on every aspect. And I know a few things of the political arena. I'm going to go ahead and go before Paul goes because I don't think I can follow that act. If I can do half of the things that you've done with my career, I would be a heck of a union member. Thanks for being here. I wrote this stuff down so I wouldn't forget it. So we're here tonight to celebrate the careers of Paul Kacha, Guy Belanger, and Willie Booyer. In their time here, they have achieved more than they know. During the many years with 6787 and in the steel industry, they have helped attain incredible heights and success. It seems that retirement is something way ahead of you, but yet here you are. Your last day of work finally arrived, and the wait is over. You are retired. Now is the chance to be true to your own self and the opportunity to pick up forgotten hobbies. All your hard work is paid off. There is also time for personal growth, which becomes a path to greater freedom. This is not the end of the road, but the beginning of an open highway waiting for you. Half our life is spent trying to find something to do with the time we have rushed through. Life trying to stay. As your life changes, take time to recalibrate, to find your values again. Always remember that you are retiring from work, but not from life. Thank you for being the dedicated steelworkers, union brothers, and co-workers. We wish you the best in your next chapter of your life. May your retirement be long and lovely. You guys gotta say something? Willie, you wanna say something? Guy, anybody? I just Paul would be prepared.
You can't keep back quiet.
You guys want to come? Why don't you guys come up here? I wanna read something to you. I got some stuff here for you. For Guy Belanger, Paul Kacha, and Willie Booyer from your brothers and sisters, on behalf of all the officers, grievers, and members of Local Union 6787, we sincerely appreciate your loyal and dedicated continuous service to this union. Come on up here and get your plaques. Come on, Willie, got one up here for you too. Come on.
Yeah, I can deliver Willie's.
I'll bring it to you.
It's like they don't know you. There you go, brother.
And on behalf of the Tool Room Fund, I can give you your $400 gift, which means they could pay for something afterwards.
Before Paul gets up to speed, there was one thing I forgot to mention earlier. I mention this every year. I'm going to mention it again because it's important. We are the only department in this bill that does this.
Let's have a party even if nobody retires.
That's a good idea. That's a good. I was off sick. So Mike brings up a good point. You know, if someone doesn't retire for 3-4 years, we should be holding parties in between that. That is something we can definitely organize and do. But again, we deserve that round of applause because we're the only department that respects all the life that we spent out here in the middle. So again, to you guys, thank you. And for as long as we're here, we will make sure that this continues forward. Thank you.
Any other guys didn't want to say anything, but I do want to say something. Guy, you want to say something? Thanks for the money, though. My wife already told me half of it's hers. And thank you for all the remarks that were made here on behalf of all three of us. You know, Joe, I talked to Joe Ello earlier about giving a speech, and I said, well, I could either do a 1-hour speech or a 10-minute comedy routine. Which should I do? And he said, do the 1 hour speech. And, you know, Willie Boyer, when Bethlehem Steel went under and ISG was created, Middle bought actually it was ISG before it was Middle. ISG combined everybody, our units, because he was in the crane shop, and VOF mechanical and the cast mechanical were all combined, and the gas cleaning shop were all combined into one unit. And Mark Emis kept trying to get everybody to report to the caster for their work assignments, and Willie Boyer was the lone holdout that they threatened to fire him if he didn't show up to the caster to get his assignments to work. And he was still on shift work at that time too. I think he finished working shift work too, retired as a shift worker. But Willie was always jealously guarding the work on those cranes, even after they made him like an all-around millwright who was supposed to take care of everything. And Guy Belangen, was the person who caused the first challenge to our rule that we have when they combine all those areas, that you could transfer from one area to another whenever they brought somebody new into the unit. Guy was that person that they brought new into the unit, and they tried not to let anybody have the opportunity to transfer around and fill that vacancy. Now I hope it's still that way in the area, but as a result of Guy transferring in, and the company was guarded at trying to keep Guy in the caster, we ended up getting an extra person transfer into the caster as a result of that. And when I hired in, the starting wage was $2.34 an hour. I used to pull that wage stubs. I've had those wage stubs, and I tried to find them for this meeting, and I looked everywhere, and I'm sure I'll find them tomorrow morning, because that's usually how that works. When you're looking for the tool, and you finally give up looking for the tool, and you go out and buy one, then you find it the next day. And not only do I still have those pay stubs, I still have the underwear I hired in with. I have it on tonight. No, I was only 18 years old when I hired in, and my grandfather and both my grandfathers were steel workers. And when I hired in, I remember distinctly driving to the blast furnace and seeing, I was only 18, I was kind of like afraid when I was driving into that big, there was only D furnace at that time. And I was fresh from having won it was July 9th, I had fresh from having won the biggest lottery, having avoided having to go to Vietnam, because my number was 251 in the lottery that year. That was on July 1st, they held that lottery. July 9th, I hired into the mill. And there's a lot of people here who, maybe not here now, but there were a lot of people that were in the service. I thank you for your service at that time. And both my grandfathers worked at the American Foundry. However, my maternal grandfather, he became actually a union representative, and he was a staff representative in the union. When I hired in, the concrete was still white in the blast furnace area. And so was the workforce in the blast furnace mechanical. There was over 100 of us that were in our teens and early 20s. If you were old, if you were 30 years old, where some of the bosses were 30, that was old at that time. And the big issues back then were you weren't allowed to have facial hair. You had to have your sideburns in the middle of the ear, and your mustache had to be here. And the big issue was forced overtime. Can you believe that? Forced overtime people want overtime. Back then, when they would gather at the end of the day, they would say, "Oh, nobody can go home. We're having to hold everybody here for overtime." Bing! Everybody ran to the phones to try to call. There were no cell phones back then. You had to try to get a regular phone or a pay phone or something to try to call home. They have them call you home because there was an emergency. And it was all male. There were no women in the blast furnace at that time. And just like the concrete was white, the workforce was white. There were no African Americans, no Latinos, nobody in that shop. It took years before there was finally, the color line was broke. People of color were hired. And I was encouraged to become an assistant griever by a welder named Ron Childers. He would encourage me to call the bosses and try to raise hell with them. There were no lunchrooms. We ate in a shack, in a little loft overlooking the shop. And I experienced my first shutdown in 1971. There was a contract negotiated in 71. And there was also, we lined up for tool inspections and locker inspections and all kinds of things. Those are the rules that kind of shaped my attitude towards what was going on. And that's why we started the rank and file organization, the rank and file worker, and which had the mill rat of the month. For those of you old enough to remember that, we passed out that newsletter every month, and it would have the mill rat of the month in there. Some foreman that did something to somebody out in the plant. And then there's the infamous getting fired for the marijuana in the hubcaps. The funny thing is that they actually said they were searching for a gun. They had a report that I had a gun. And they searched my car for a gun, and when they went to the hubcaps, I was like, how do you have a gun in the hubcap? I had those little baby moon hubcaps on your wheels back then. And they popped that one hubcap off, and there a paper bag fell out. I didn't smoke marijuana at that time. I have smoked marijuana since then. But I didn't smoke any marijuana at that time. When the consent decree came in 1974, Bethlehem Steel, along with 8 other companies, were caught discriminating, which everyone who knew anything knew that there was discrimination in hiring at that time. When they were caught with that discrimination, it was proved nationwide. They had to start allowing people to hire in, and they were also giving people an opportunity to get into the craft. So more women and people of different races were able to get into the mechanical. When I was elected president, something that was also not pointed out is I was the youngest president ever to get elected into a basic steel plant. And I am proud of many of those changes that were made in our administration. It wasn't just me. When I got fired, it wasn't just me that got that. There were pickets at the gate. There was people like, they're in this room that helped get me back to work. Jerry Biller back there was one of those that was on the pickets at the gate. Yeah. And those are the people that got my job back then. I didn't, I was actually set up by someone who was a briefer at the time, which we won't mention his name, but his initials were Gene Mosier. He was actually representing a guy that was discharged, who I won't mention his name, but his initials were Fred Bemis. And he was actually the guy that planted in there. And I didn't know this until he came, when I was president, he came to the office and apologized. He was going through the 12-step program and making amends for the things he did. And he apologized for doing that.
I changed my mind about that hour speech. How about the television?
Not much more. I put that 25 years in the blast furnace, then transferred to the caster. And when I became assistant griever, it was unfortunately the same week that Ronnie Clark was killed. Ronnie Clark, who was part of this sign that Jerry Miller and others made up. It has the names on it here. And now it's Woody that's in charge of keeping this sign going in the shop. But Jerry Miller and I forget who the other guys were that helped. Oh, it was Al Reed's idea to begin with to make this sign. Al Reed's idea. And the biggest difference, I remember when I transferred to the caster from the blast furnace, is people in the caster talked about retirement. They didn't talk about it in the caster. They talked about retirement. In the blast furnace, they didn't. And today is the 5th anniversary of my heart attack that I had in the mill, which, thanks to Joel, Originally, he told me, oh, it's probably just indigestion. So, the paramedics came the first time and they said, you're not having a heart attack. And then, that's when Joe said, oh, I had that same thing. I had indigestion, and that's all it was when I went to the hospital. They said it was indigestion. And I said, okay. So when they came back the second time, when I was really feeling bad, and I was in the operating room and everything, and I said, are you sure this isn't just indigestion? And he said, no, sir, you're having a heart attack right now.
Thanks, Joe.
So, to finish, I'd like to say that there are lots of things happening out here in the world. There's lots of things happening. Our jobs are constantly under attack here. If you aren't involved in trying to save your job, save the steel industry, get involved. Because it's important that you get involved and you do things in this plant, in this country, to make it a better place. Thank you.
So, the board, the wall here that we memorialized, if you haven't signed it, let me know. We're going to remove it. So you can't sign it. Guy, I don't think you've signed it, have you? Willie, all right, so we will be removing this. Also, it's important that we point out, and this is something that Paul actually taught me, that tradition means something. He really used to hit that in my head hard. And if you look at this board, the names of the plaques, it's everyone that worked in the castle. It's not just union guys. It's union and it's salary. Everybody out there has sacrificed all for making a slab of steel. With that being said, Jeff Stahlbach usually likes to say a few words. And we would invite him to come up now. He is the lead master caster
Wow, I'm totally unprepared. Of course, but I have a favor. I'd like for every retiree to raise their hand. Come on. Roby, you can get it up, right? Okay, so it's pretty obvious there's no retirees here tonight. I'll appreciate you all coming. You all have been in the caster for somewhere between 5 and 10 years. I'm guessing numbers, but I knew every one of these guys, and I appreciate it. When I started in the caster, this is a club for Pete. I had 65 dollars. I have 50 today. I need help. Bill wants to come back. Keep working with my upper management, please.
Can you make room for my walker?
So I appreciate everybody coming out, but the younger generation, we got a fair amount of folks, guys and girls alike, that have been in the caster for just a few years. I don't think they get it yet. I don't think they get this camaraderie, did I say it right, that y'all have. And I've been a part of it for over 20 years, and I just can't say enough about it. So as far as Mr. Valanchin sitting here, my favorite story was working on the LOP one night when he was trying to weld a hydraulic block. We couldn't figure out. He later told me, he said, I wondered why that damn part was green. It was aluminum. We didn't recognize it. We fought that all night. Later I thought, this guy thinks he's a welder? But again, thank you very much for your service and respect of the caster. Liz, thank you for bringing Willie tonight. Willie?
Yes.
You and I go back some turns. You and I and Liz go back some turns. I got one word. Willie! That was Liz's cry for help. Sorry. Sorry I couldn't impersonate it better. I can't paraphrase better than what everybody's already said. Okay? I'm really just putting it into different words. the group. And as far as Paul Kachaha, I gotta say, in my early days, I hated him. I mean, I'm manager, he's salary, he's my assistant griever from my first day there. But since he's left, and nothing against you, Rich, okay? Nothing against Mr. Garcia or Mr. Lee. But I miss you. I didn't think I'd ever say that.
You can go back as a green griever.
Not
A green griever.
Can I contract out grievers?
We're all negotiated for you.
Seriously, Paul, you taught me a lot. Even though we're on opposite sides of the fence and we disagree sometimes, I owe you a lot. Thank you. Wayne Bjornson, well, thank you. You will be missed by this group and hundreds, if not thousands, of other people. It kind of reminds me of military veterans. You know, there's just a special on TV about the guys in Normandy, those that fought before us. And this has got similar sounds to it. So I'm going to wrap this up, Paul, and just say, man, I hope you got a lot of good years left, but everybody, from the hourly ranks to the salary ranks, owes you a shit ton. So thank you.